Here's a question I want you to sit with for just a second. When you got out of bed this morning, was your first move fluid and easy? Or did you do what so many people over 60 do? That slow, careful negotiation with your own body. The stiff shuffle to the bathroom. The fingers that need 5 minutes before they'll cooperate. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something important. That is not your body giving up on you. And the fix may be closer than you think. It might be sitting in your kitchen right now. Today we're talking about 6 specific foods that can help keep your joints moving and take the edge off that morning stiffness that millions of people have simply accepted as normal. Now I'll be honest with you. When I saw the research behind the last one on this list, I had to stop and read it. It's the most counterintuitive of the bunch, and it genuinely changed the way I think about joint health. So stay with me. Don't skip ahead. Before we get started, what's the joint that gives you the most grief first thing in the morning? Knees, hips, fingers, shoulders? Tell me in the comments. I read every single response, and your answers actually shape what I make next. Now, before we get into the list, I want to anchor everything in something real. The Cleveland Clinic, one of the most respected medical institutions in the country, put it plainly. A mostly plant-based diet rich in healthy fats plays a significant role in preventing, managing, and treating joint pain and stiffness. That's not a wellness influencer talking. That's a world-class medical center. And what I'm sharing today builds directly on that foundation. These aren't trendy superfoods with inflated promises. These are foods with solid science behind them. Foods that work with the way your body actually handles inflammation and joint tissue after 60. If this kind of research-backed, no-nonsense content is what you've been looking for, I'd love for you to subscribe. I put a lot of time into tracking down the real stuff, and knowing you're here is the only reason I keep doing it. Let's start with something that might already be sitting on your counter: extra virgin olive oil. Now I know, it feels too simple, too ordinary, but here's what most people are never told about it. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, and researchers have found that it works in a way that is remarkably similar to how common anti-inflammatory medications work. It interferes with the same enzymes that trigger inflammation in joint tissue. Think of your joints as hinges on an old gate. Inflammation is like rust building up around those hinges over time, making every movement stiff, making every step something you have to think about. Oleocanthal is one of the compounds that helps slow that rusting process. Now, the key word here is extra virgin. Refined olive oil doesn't carry the same concentration of this compound. You want the real cold-pressed version, ideally a bottle with a recent harvest date on the label. The simplest way to use it: 1 to 2 tablespoons in the morning. Drizzle it on whole grain toast. Stir it into your morning eggs. Blend it into a smoothie with some greens. You won't taste it much, but your joints will have something to work with before the day even begins. And this one connects beautifully to what comes next, because the next food works through a completely different pathway, and the two together are more powerful than either one on its own. Let's talk about omega-3 fatty acids, and specifically, the foods that give you the kind your body can actually use right away. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring. These are the heavy hitters. Omega-3s are one of the most reliable nutritional tools we have for quieting inflammation in the body, and joint tissue is particularly responsive to them. The research on this goes back decades, and the direction of the evidence is consistent. Regular intake of omega-3 rich fish is associated with less joint tenderness, better mobility, and a meaningful reduction in morning stiffness. I'll never forget a woman I came across through this work. Her name was Pauline, a retired librarian in her late 60s, who had lived with stiff, aching hands for years. She tried every supplement her doctor suggested, but she hadn't changed her diet much at all. A colleague of hers convinced her to start eating salmon twice a week and add sardines to her lunches. Within about 6 weeks, she said her hands felt different in the mornings, not a dramatic overnight transformation, a gradual loosening that kept improving. She told me she wished someone had mentioned food years earlier. For your morning routine, canned salmon or sardines on whole grain toast is honestly one of the easiest joint-friendly breakfasts you can make. Quick, affordable, and your joints will notice. If fish genuinely isn't your thing, a high-quality fish oil supplement can fill the gap. But whole food first always. Here's something I want you to think about. 5 years ago, could you move through your morning without giving your body a second thought? Could you get up, walk to the kitchen, make your coffee, and just move? When did that start to change? For a lot of people over 60, the shift is so gradual that they barely notice it until the stiffness has become the new normal. That's exactly why what you put on your plate in the morning matters so much. Because your joints are either getting the raw materials they need or they're quietly going without. We're at the halfway point of this list. And if you've already tried one of these foods and noticed a difference, I'd genuinely love to hear about it in the comments. Real world experience from real people is worth more than any clinical footnote. Let's talk about berries, and specifically, why the color of your food matters more than most people realize. Blueberries, cherries, blackberries, raspberries. That deep, rich color isn't just pretty, it comes from compounds called anthocyanins, which are among the most powerful plant-based anti-inflammatory compounds found in food. Your joint lining, the thin, delicate tissue that keeps movement smooth, is constantly exposed to oxidative stress as you age. Think of oxidative stress as a slow kind of internal weathering, like paint gradually chipping off a surface that's out in the elements every single day. Anthocyanins help slow that weathering process. Tart cherries deserve a specific mention here because the science on them and joint health is particularly interesting. They've been studied in relation to gout and general inflammatory joint conditions, and the results point consistently in the right direction. A small handful of mixed berries in your morning yogurt, your oatmeal, or just on their own takes about 30 seconds to add to your routine. It's one of the lowest effort things on this list, and it pairs beautifully with the omega-3s we just talked about. Your breakfast is already starting to look like something your joints will actually be grateful for. This next one has been used for centuries. But what's interesting is how precisely modern research has started to explain why it actually works. Turmeric, the active compound inside it, curcumin, has been studied extensively for its effect on the same inflammatory pathways that drive joint discomfort. The research on curcumin and joint health is genuinely compelling, and the direction of the evidence is consistent. It helps quiet the biological signals that make joints feel hot, swollen, and stiff. Now here's the part that most people skip, and it matters a lot. Curcumin on its own is not well absorbed by the body. It passes through your system without doing very much. But when you combine it with black pepper, even a small pinch, the absorption increases dramatically. That one detail is the difference between a food that does something and one that doesn't. So if you're making a morning smoothie, add half a teaspoon of turmeric and a small pinch of black pepper. If you prefer a warm drink, a golden milk, turmeric, a little black pepper, warm milk of your choice, maybe a touch of honey, is one of the most joint-friendly morning rituals I know of. One gentle note here: if you're on blood thinners or have a sensitive stomach, check with your doctor before adding turmeric in significant amounts. It can interact with certain medications, but for most people, this is a gentle, well-tolerated, and genuinely effective addition to a morning routine. Now we're getting into the ones that really move the needle. Dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens. I know you've heard eat your greens your whole life, but here's what that advice usually leaves out. These greens are loaded with compounds that directly affect how your immune system behaves inside your joint tissue. They contain vitamin K, which plays a role in maintaining the health of cartilage. They carry magnesium, which supports the muscle function that protects joints from strain. And they're rich in plant compounds that dampen chronic, low-grade inflammation, the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly, but quietly erodes joint comfort over years. I think about a man named Gerald, a retired carpenter who had spent 40 years on job sites. By his early 70s, his knees and wrists had paid a steep price. He was stubborn about changing anything in his diet until his daughter started making him a spinach and kale smoothie every morning before he could protest. He called it swamp water for the first 2 weeks. By the end of the third week, he admitted, grudgingly, that he was moving better. He still called it swamp water, but he drank it every single day. The easiest morning application: blend a large handful of spinach into a fruit smoothie. You won't taste it against the berries we already talked about, and the two together create a genuinely powerful combination. If smoothies aren't your style, sautéed greens with that extra virgin olive oil from our first food takes about 4 minutes and tastes genuinely good. We've covered 5 genuinely powerful foods: olive oil, fatty fish, berries, turmeric, leafy greens. Each one works through a different mechanism. Each one supports your joints from a different angle. And together, they start to create something that none of them can build alone: a dietary pattern that consistently reduces the inflammatory load on your body day after day. But the one I'm about to share has surprised more people than any other on this list, because most people think of it as a snack, not a medicine. And the research behind what it does to your joints specifically, in your age group specifically, stopped me when I first read it. One small ask before we get there. If this video is starting to feel like the thing you wish you'd found years ago, tap the like button. It's a small thing that helps this reach the next person who's been waking up stiff every morning and wondering why nobody ever told them about this. Walnut, that's it. That's number one. I know what you're thinking, walnuts, but stay with me. Because the reason walnuts landed at the very top of this list is something most people never connect. Walnuts are the single best plant-based source of ALA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid. For people who don't eat fish, they're extraordinary. But even for those who do, walnuts bring something additional, a particular combination of healthy fats, plant compounds, and antioxidants that converge in a way that is remarkably well suited to joint health specifically. They contain polyphenols, compounds that actively work against the oxidative damage that accelerates cartilage breakdown. They carry magnesium, just like the greens we discussed, and unlike fish, you can eat them at room temperature, straight out of the bag, in 30 seconds flat. No cooking, no preparation, just a small handful, roughly a quarter cup, and you're done. I want to share something about a woman I heard from not long ago. Her name was Renata, a 71-year-old who had retired from nursing and spent her days tending a large vegetable garden. Her hands had started to feel like they belonged to someone older, stiff, unreliable, slow to warm up in the mornings. She started adding a handful of walnuts to her breakfast oatmeal every day, alongside the blueberries she already ate. After about 3 weeks, the morning ritual felt different, not dramatic. Quiet. Her words were, "My hands just started cooperating again." That's what we're after. Not miracles, just cooperation. Pair your walnuts with your berries. Drizzle olive oil on the toast underneath. And you've built a breakfast that addresses joint inflammation from multiple directions at once. That's a system, not just a snack. So here's where we land. 6 foods: extra virgin olive oil, fatty fish, berries, turmeric, always with black pepper, dark leafy greens, and walnuts. Each one works. But the real power is in the pattern. When you combine them, morning after morning, you're giving your body the building blocks it needs to manage inflammation, protect cartilage, and keep those joints moving the way they're supposed to. Here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Pick just one of these today. Just one. Add it to tomorrow's breakfast. Do it every morning for 30 days. And notice what changes. Not what the scale says, not what a scan shows. What your body actually feels like. At 8 in the morning, that is your data. Your body has been doing remarkable things for 60, 70, 80 years. It does not need to be abandoned to stiffness and a slow shuffle. It needs the right fuel. And these 6 foods are a real, practical, science-backed place to start. I'm already putting together something on the specific anti-inflammatory spices that work even faster than turmeric alone. A follow-up I think you're going to want to see. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Not because I'm asking for numbers, but because I genuinely want the people who found this video useful to be there when the next one comes out. I'd hate for you to miss it. And if you want to give someone in your life a real gift today, the friend who keeps saying their knees are just old, the sibling who started avoiding stairs, share this video with them. It takes one tap. It might change their morning for years. This channel is for general educational purposes only. Always consult your doctor or qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your diet, exercise, or supplement routine. Take care of those joints. I'll see you in the next one. Ha!